Welcome to Parenthood Bytes, the podcast where we explore life as a parent in tech. I'm your host, Chow, and I have over 15 years of experience in tech, and I'm also currently working as a career coach. I'm the proud mother of 3 incredible boys. In each episode, we have an inspiring guest who will share their remarkable story. You'll find their wisdom and insights both relatable and enriching, because after all, we're all in this parenting journey together. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 89 of Parenthood Bytes. We're here today with Mubashir Memon, who is a strategic and hands-on product and program leader with deep expertise in healthcare and SaaS product management, as well as program and portfolio oversight. He is currently the Director of Product of Commercial Technology at Cooper Surgical. Hi Mubashir, how are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Are your kids on summer break yet?
One more week and counting, so we're almost about there, and I'm looking forward to it. I think there's some summer school programs that are out there, activities, sports, and I'm just thinking about also creating like a structure so that while they're here, they stay busy.
For sure. And I know summer is always super exciting for the kids. We obviously love spending time with them, but I think they're even more excited about it.
Oh my God, yeah, especially, my kids, it's their first year at full-time school, right? So 6, 5, and 3, and for them it was a shock. And so, I think they're really looking forward to having the extra time and doing more activities and fun than, sitting in the classroom, which I don't blame them, right? It's just hard as working parents.
Yeah, I was about to ask for your kids' ages. So is the 3-year-old also going to be on summer break as well?
Yeah. So, he's not in school. He was the only one that wasn't, Montessori programs and stuff like this. But this upcoming fall, he's going to be full-time as well. And so it's going to be a shock for him because he's like the spoiled baby and like, the one that gets away with everything. So it'll be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah, I feel like the third one is always a little bit more leeway. We give a little more leeway to the third one.
I can definitely relate. I was the third one and I have 2 older sisters. And so I got away with everything.
Amazing. So, what brought you to a career in tech?
I've always been fascinated by just business in general and just products, right? And so when I was a kid, I just was very business minded naturally. I used to go around my apartments and fill up water balloons and sell them, like filled water balloons. And like the package of water balloons was like 99 cents. And I was selling one water balloon for 50 cents to these kids. And I was making money. And like it started off at like, hey, I'll pay you for this. And I'm like, business idea. And so I go and I start this little thing, starts just getting all these water balloons and start selling them to kids. And from there, I was like, this is how business works, right? And I was only like 9 years old. And I go down this journey of just learning more about business, technology, and studying in school. You kind of explore in business school product, you explore marketing, you explore communications. And I knew... Yeah, sorry about the background noise. This cat would do this right now.
Your cat's having a lot of fun back there, I feel.
Yeah. She usually never does this. So I think she knows that I'm in a podcast. So she's like, let me try to be a part of it. As I was saying, as I'm exploring in college, like these different directions of business, what really stood out to me was product, because product could be a service. It could be something that's tangible, intangible. It could be something that you create, and it's all about creating a solution for a problem. And for me, my life was all about just solutioning and just figuring out things, especially just like growing up here in the US. My parents were migrants from Pakistan, and just having to figure things out. We had strict parents growing up, and I was the only son, and so having 2 older sisters, they were used to raising daughters, and for me, like, I wanted freedom and explore and this and that. So I was just really trying to figure out ways of going about life as I was growing up, and it just resonated with me, and it felt like product and technology was the right path, and really never looked back.
That's awesome. So then I want to ask real quick about the water balloons. Were you able to fill them yourself? Because I can't imagine my 9-year-old being able to fill a water balloon on his own. He can't tie the knot or.
Yeah, no, I figured it out. So I would put the water balloon on the sink and then it would, blow up a little bit. And then I would tie it around my finger and then just put it in a bag, get the next one, get the next one. And I'd walk around with the bag around my apartment complex and I'd just be selling water balloons. I think like one week I made like $30, $40 and like,
Whoa.
like that's a lot of money back then for a
Yeah.
9-year-old. And so I was just like, oh my God, like this is amazing. It didn't last very
Yeah.
long, but I mean, it was fruitful for how long it lasted.
Yeah, that's a pretty good hustle. Like, wow, that's very impressive, especially like you said, for that time period. Even now, right? For a 9-year-old to make that much money, and you said 50 cents per balloon, that's pretty impressive.
Pretty steep, yeah. This is what the kid offered me, the first one. He's like, I'll give you 50 cents. And I was like, that's my base price. All right, let's go.
That's awesome. And you talked a lot about products. So currently you're in product management. Is that kind of what you've always been doing?
Yeah, I serve as a product leader. And so, for me, just creating solutions, whether it's application based, whether it's, web applications, CRMs, ERPs, anything that has a potential solution or problem tied to it, right? So even if it's a way of doing things, so process improvement, Lean Six Sigma, it's kind of like the arena that I grew up in. And so I enjoy it. I apply it in my life every day. And it's like a nuance now almost because I'll be at the airport and I'm looking at something that's like that they're doing. And I'm like, this could be improved if they did X, Y, and Z and probably create 2 extra minutes of efficiency resulting in X profit. And I'm just like, why am I thinking about this? I'm going on vacation right now, and now it's like in my DNA, it's embedded. So it's just, it's always been a part of me. And I think the biggest thing for me is the satisfaction of creating a solution of something that's complex, right? So I've always been a firm believer that complexity is the enemy of execution. So if you want to execute something, there's complexity tied to it. How do you simplify that complexity? And that's how I essentially look at life. That's how I look at everything. And that's why product management has always been something that's been very embedded within me.
Neat. So read your intro earlier and like you do a lot of things. So do you do consulting and what is it that you're focused on now?
Yeah, quite a few things. So consulting is one of them. I started consulting back in 2016. I started like an independent consulting business, working in technology for a little bit, out of college, and then worked at Amazon. And one day I did a training with this very seasoned, he had 10 more years of experience than I did, and he was leading this training, and I was the assigned consultant, like at one of my old jobs, to help him kind of bring everything together. And so, I was really green, but the gentleman that I was working with, we just really hit it off, and he was, kind of like a mentor and really giving me some advice. And so eventually we did that. I moved to Chicago to join Amazon. And I remember getting a call from him in December of 2015. And he's like, you ever thought about doing like independent consulting? I'm doing like this contract gig and this and that. You should look into it. And I was like, tell me more. Didn't really know too much about it, but he educated me and I didn't really know what I was doing. He's like, yeah, open up an S Corp. I'm going to connect you with one of my buddies. I have a potential client for you. And I'm like, whoa, like this is cool. I don't even know what I'm getting into. And so, it was a really large scale client and they were doing this whole digital transformation thing back in 2016. And so in February of 2016, just 2 months from us having our initial conversation, I had opened up an S Corp without knowing much about it. I established a business, a location, and all the legalities, and went into independent consulting. And our first client we started in February of 2016, and just the rest was history. And in the beginning, like I remember like my first day, they were doing this huge digital transformation and they're telling me all this information. They're like, so what should we do? And I'm like, let me dissect this a little bit and like, well, let's set up a meeting. And like in my mind I'm like, oh my god, like am I the best person to be doing this right now? But I was like, no, like failure is not an option, we'll figure this out. So 12 to 14 hours a day, put in the extra work, really learn the ins and outs. There was no chat GPT back then, it was just Google, and even Google was not that smart. So it was just really independent learning and teaching myself. And I got a couple of extensions from that client and went on to the next client and the next client. And then eventually went into a full-time, senior director level role, present day and stuff. And yeah, that's kind of how it all started. And that was the consulting aspect of things. So I went from consulting to, full-time work, back to consulting. In between the journey, I started side businesses. So I started a car dealership. I started some e-commerce stuff. And now I'm working on a startup independent of everything that I do. So it's been a lot being a single parent of three, trying to, build an empire and just trying to do it all. And some days are easier than others.
Yeah, that's a lot. So, were you doing consulting when your kids were born? How did they fit into that journey?
I had my firstborn in 2019. So I got married very young. I think I was 24, 25. I was doing the whole consulting thing in 2016 and it took off. And so, 2017, I met my ex-wife and within, I think, 6 to 8 months, we got married. And it was more so me just thinking like, hey, let me settle down. Career trajectory is going well. I want to be a family man. Like, forget the partying, forget the hanging out with the friends, like all of that. Like, I already did the whole college thing. Like, let me be, more religious. Let me do the right thing. And so that was my biggest takeaway, was just let me just settle down. And I settled down and we had 3 kids in 3 years and then we got divorced. And so it was a great learning experience, just mentally and just emotionally, and just made me even a better person. So, taking a negative and looking at it from a positive perspective, I think is always the right thing to do, right? Because we all have our own battles that nobody else can see. But at the end of the day, it's the fight that you're having with yourself mentally, and just really shutting out all the noise and showing up every day and showing up in the best capacity you possibly can. And so that's what I've been about. And it was tough because I was trying to do all of this while raising 3 kids. It was a lot of sleepless nights. I feel like I reversed age. I used to look a lot older when I was married than I do now, honestly.
But I feel like maybe your kids are a little bit older now, but like there was the pandemic and your kids were very young and you're trying to juggle like consulting with the young kids. Like, how did you balance that?
It was tough, honestly. There was stints where there was no consulting work, right? So went from consulting to a full-time gig, and then the pandemic hit, and then the divorce happened, and everything happened so quickly. It happened overnight, so it's not like we were like, yeah, let's get divorced, let's talk about it. It's a whole process. It literally, there's an event that took place, and it happened overnight, and the rest was history. And then I had 3 kids to myself, and I was like, man, how do I do this? But now I gotta not only be a father, but I also have to be a mother. I also have to provide. I also have elderly parents that I got to take care of. I got to do all of these different things. And I was just waking up and constantly creating solutions in my mind, constantly figuring out things, and there is really no straight answer to the how. It's more so just, different things that I did in my life, like, going to the gym, going for morning runs, not sleeping, but trying to eat healthy, like just different things that kind of helped the journey. And for me, that was actually more beneficial than like things that I would recommend. Like, books and things like this are good, but it's also a lifestyle. Just creating a lifestyle where I was like, I'm not going to be able to cope with this if I just focus on this. I also need to, take care of myself. And it wasn't easy. I didn't figure it out overnight. And some days were harder than others. I was laid off. I went through immense financial success right out of college to losing it all in a divorce to having to rebuild at age 29. And then having to go through a very extended, prolonged divorce, obviously court dates and this, legal fees, etc. And so, it was kind of like I was here, then I was here, then I was here, and I was here. And so now trying to just create stability and trying to really get after it and take things to the next level. So for me, this startup, this app that I'm working on, just taking care of the kids are getting older, creating the right foundation for them, and just making sure that I'm not having to do this again in the future, you know what I mean? And just learning from my mistakes, learning from things that I could have controlled, and, and only looking at it in that regard. We can't blame anybody. We can't blame anything really for anything at all. I mean, we all have our journey, and I'm a firm believer in faith, and God puts us in different positions and will always test us, but never test us beyond our capabilities.
Very well said. And you said kind of making sure to take care of yourself in the process, eating right, going for the run and stuff. Did you have to make any changes for that? Like, how did you make time to? Because, as a parent, I feel like it's so easy for us just like, I'm too busy. I can't go for that run, or like, I'm tired. How did you carve that time out for yourself?
So when I initially was divorced, I had a 1 year old and a 2 year old and a 0, right? And so my parents helped me a lot. They had moved in, lived with me. So they would take care of my older child, which was my daughter. She was 2. She was super attached to them anyways. My son, like 1 year, they're only 10 and a half months apart. So my daughter was born in January of 2019, in the beginning and the end of January. And then my son was born in the beginning of December of the same year. And so,
Whoa, the
yeah,
same year.
same year, yeah. And so, not planned, by the way. So, nobody in the right mind plans this. And so, this just happened, right? And so, they're very close in age, but, he's bottle fed, he's a baby. And so, what I would do is I would wake up, instead of waiting for him to wake up in the middle of the night for his bottle, I would set an alarm at 2 a.m. and at 6 a.m. And then I would feed him right before bed too. And so he would go to sleep around, 9, 10 p.m. And so I would put him to sleep. I would go work. I would go to sleep around 12 or 1, wake up at 2, feed him his bottle, go get a couple of hours of sleep. And then I would wake up again, feed him his bottle. And then I would go for my quick run, because he's asleep. My parents are in the house just in case. Come back, shower, get ready, and go to work. And then I would either have somebody come help my parents, watch the kids, or I would go and just different things, get help wherever I possibly could. So all the money that I was making was going towards childcare or just assistance and all of this and legal fees. And so I was working really just to work. Nothing was coming back to me because there were so many legal fees. There were so many things that I had to take care of. And as I'm going through this, this is what I'm doing initially. And then as they get a little bit older, I buy a house that I'm in right now, and I, build a full surveillance system so I can watch them all the time if I'm in the garage, if I'm, working out in the backyard. And so just creating more of what I need in my own home, rather than having to leave the home. So now that they're 6, 5, and 3, it's a lot easier. But before it was so tough, and just figuring out different pieces of the journey, right? Because when they're bottle fed, it's completely different. And then I have pictures of me in this very same frame with a daddy backpack with my 1 year old just right here, and I'm presenting. I'm in a meeting, and I'm like, hey, look, this, I don't have a choice. What I mean? The other 2 are downstairs playing, or doing whatever they're doing in the loft or whatever. But the youngest is right here, and I can't do anything. My parents no longer live with me. It's been 3, 4 years, and so just been doing it on my own. But luckily, my parents have been fantastic. They live very close by. We go there for dinner a lot. God's been looking after me even through all the tests and patient-driven experiences. But I'm just trying to keep going.
And it's great that your parents are nearby also for the kids to have that relationship so they can hang out with them and be close to them. And that's so rewarding for all of them.
Oh, absolutely. Just seeing them, how they are with my kids and seeing them so happy. That's all that matters to me, is their happiness, everybody's happiness. And, for me, just being a provider and doing whatever I can to promote that makes me, really keeps me going.
And also, it's so interesting to see when parents become grandparents, because I feel like when there are parents, they have a certain level of strictness. But with grandkids, it's like everything goes out the door. Just whatever makes them happy. They're like, it's cool.
Literally, oh my God. I'm like, if I did this, I would have got slapped.
Right. And they do it. It's cute. Right?
Oh, yeah. And they're like, why are you getting mad at him? And I'm like, what do you mean? If I did this, you would have smacked me.
Yeah.
What do you mean? And no, they treat grandkids with a lot more love than they treated us. And I'm like, what are you doing? This is not cool.
Yeah, it's sweet and heartwarming, but also dang, These were not the parents that I grew up
Yeah,
with.
what happened? What happened? They're so chill with them, honestly.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you, having multiple kids, how do you like make sure nobody feels left out? How do you, spend quality time with all of them? And yeah, how do you navigate that?
I do everything together with all three of them. So now, like present day, it's so much easier than it was like 2 years ago. Because before it was like, all right, he's in diapers, she's potty trained, he's in between, and so it was chaos. But now we do everything together. So honestly, like they're such good kids. If you take them anywhere, they won't throw tantrums, they won't run around, they won't ride on walls, they won't break things. They just, if I tell them to sit in one place, they will sit in one place. And this is like even 2 3 years ago. I've always been like this, thank God. But like they follow me around like there's a mother duck and then there's the little ducklings. I promise
Yeah.
you, like it's so beautiful to see. Like we'll be walking around Target, we'll be walking around the mall, and I don't have to worry. Like they're not in strollers. I don't use strollers. I don't use any of that stuff. Like literally, they're walking with me. Every now and then, like one of them wants to get carried, I'll hold them, or I'll hold two of them. But it's just I don't want to say training, but like just kind of like how I've treated like the situation and the environment from the very beginning. They listen. They're attentive. They don't argue. They don't throw tantrums. They just follow this regimen. You know what I mean? It's really cool to see. And like I've been stopped so many times at coffee shops and even barber shops. I'll go get my haircut, and all three of them are sitting peacefully in in the chair while daddy's getting his haircut, and no one's like causing a problem. And like you see other kids, like they're running around, they're doing this, and the moms are like, "Whose kids are these? Like they're so chill." And I'm like, "Right here." And she's like, "Wait, you're a dad?" And like they're like like this is crazy. And so just blessed to have great kids, and also just I would say in terms of advice is start very early, set the foundation. For me, I obviously like I'll speak to them like children, but like they know so much because I'm always in this space and there's a couch right there. And like sometimes when I'm working, they'll hear me in my calls. They'll be absorbing like sponges, and the words that they use are sometimes very eloquent. And like I was like, where did you learn this? And I know that it's from sitting here watching me work, or like doing things. Or my middle child, my son, he knows every car that exists. He can point any car on the road and tell you not just the make, but also the model, because of like the car business, right? And so like how do I spend time with all three of them is just that. Like if I'm busy, I try to integrate them if I know that it's not going to cause issues for me. But if I constantly am like trying to work and they're like bothering me, then it's an issue. But usually it's not the case. It's just really cool. When I first got into the car business, I'd have to go buy cars from the auction or from a dealer and then go ship them and this and that. And I'd have all three kids, and this is before they went to school, and so they would be in the Uber with me. I'd be carrying car seats around, and then I'd go make a deal, drive that new car back to the lot, then catch an Uber back home. And I was just whatever means necessary. But they'd be with me along for the ride. And they were all about it. Like they weren't complaining. They weren't, like, oh, why are we going? Like they were having fun. They were like, this is so cool. Like we get to go in a new car and then we're doing this and we're doing this. Like it's a whole experience, right? So I think just taking them along for the journey, helping them, feel included, and then explaining to them what we're doing is always very helpful too.
So they kind of understand, like, okay, this is why we're here. This is what we're doing.
Yeah, like a couple weeks ago, we had an inspector that was going to throw one of the vehicles into the auction, and I took them to the dealership, and I was like, "This guy's going to come. He's going to look at the car. He's going to give it a grade, and then they're going to put it in the auction." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And they're asking me all these follow-up questions, and I'm like, "This is great." You know what I mean? Like, it's so cool to like they're actually engaged in this. So those are just some of the things that I've been doing to make sure that they don't feel left out, that they're all experiencing the things that dad has to do to just make a living. And it's not your average childhood or lifestyle, but they're thriving, they're top of their class. And though it's been so tough for me, it's also been very rewarding just to see it. So at the end of the day, no matter how tough it gets, and some days are harder than others, some days are easier than others, we just keep going.
Yeah, and as long as they're happy, right? There's no
Yeah,
normal, there's no not normal, it's just what keeps the kids happy, and that's important. And it sounds like they're having a
exactly.
blast, and that's what matters.
No, 100%. 100%.
How did you decide to open a car dealership? Because that's different from like, doing product management. Like I think about that, I'm like, oh, that feels scary. Like, how did you get into that?
In the Pakistani community, it's like a very normal thing to have a car, like a wholesale retail car business. Not like a don't imagine like a very small operation that you could do digitally. So auctions are all online. You can buy cars blindly. Everything's done virtually, so you don't even have to touch the car, right? And so, I growing up, there's a lot of people in the community that were like very close to, like family, friends, or second cousins, this and that, and they were all in the car business. And so, all Pakistani, and most of them, like, they dabble into this business. It's just a thing, you know what I mean? It's just a thing in the community. And so, especially in SoCal, and I would always be like, this is very interesting. So I would always ask them questions about the car business, and they would all tell me, no, don't get into it. It's a lot of competition. It's not a lot of money. And I was like, they're lying because they're living good. I see it.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't think they want me to join because, like, maybe whatever competition or, this and that. But at the end of the day, there's always plenty for everybody to eat, right? And so for me, I was like, you know what? I am going to figure this out on my own, and I'm going to just do it. And so I think back in 2019, after I got married, I started looking into it. It's a 6-month process. You have to have a lot. You have to have parking spots that are reserved for your inventory. You got to have like a specific office space with a specific layout, with a specific, like, it's very difficult, right? Because, like, you're retailing, you're wholesaling, you're connected to the DMV, you're connected to the IRS. So, like, there's a lot of legalities and complications that go into it, especially if you're doing retail. And I almost gave up because it was so complicated and I knew nothing about it. And there was no one to help. Even the people that, I asked, they're like, oh, why are you doing it? Blah, blah, blah. And, like, I reached out to them again and they're like, just stop. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do it on my own. So I figured it out. I finally got my license. Had to go through a lot of hoops, made a lot of mistakes, and there it was. I got my dealer license in, I want to say, 2019, February of 2019. And then a few months later, I just, one night, wife and kids were sleeping, and I was on my computer, and I was like, I'm going to sign up for every possible, like, auction and every possible service and this and that, and really try this out. And so that night, I kid you not, I was up till like maybe 3 a.m. just filling out all the paperwork. Because once you have your dealer license, you can get in, right? And so doing all the paperwork. And there's no like one application fits all. Like, you have to get vetted, you have to provide all the documentation. So it's just first name, last name, this, that. And so I'm doing all of these packets. And each packet is like 10, 15 pages. Finally done, get approvals. And then I think a couple months later, it was like, let's try this out. And so I bought my first car. It was a 2007 Mercedes CLS 550, and I got it for $5,000. It had like 70,000 miles on it. I didn't even have Carfax at this time, so I just bought it blindly without knowing, does it have any accidents? Knew nothing. And I get the car shipped, and I drive the car around for a couple of days, and then I list it, I sell it, and I make a profit. And I'm like, this is why people are doing it. And so I start buying a bunch of cars. And so, like, I get a little trigger happy, I lose some money, make some money, lose some money, make some money. And that's just how I figured it out. And it was the same thing as consulting. Just put in the hours, put in the work. It's the blind leading the blind at the beginning, but you figure it out eventually, especially if you go into it with the mindset of failure is not an option. We're just going to start small, think big, and scale quickly.
It sounds like both with this and consulting, you just kind of went into it and you're like, let's try it out, bring it. And then sounds like you did great on both.
Yeah, yeah. Same thing with parenting, right? You just gotta, whatever life throws at you, right? Life will continually always throw things at you. It's how you handle the issue, handle the problem, and how you dilute the complexity of that problem.
Yeah, that's very well said. So, the last question I want to ask is if you could give one piece of advice to other single parents raising multiple kids or just raising kids in general, what would it be?
Take your time. Don't stress yourself out over the little things. There's going to be moments, there's going to be times where it's overwhelming, and there's going to be times where you feel like you got it, and then something happens, and there's curveballs, and there's it's just a game of life. And give yourself credit. I feel like we as parents don't give ourselves enough credit, and we're constantly, in this age of social media where we see all these reels and we see all these different shorts, and like, oh, these parents are doing this, or these parents are doing this. Oh, look at how great they are. Look at how much fun there's no comparison. Everybody has their own journey, and what you see on social media is a facade at the end of the day, right? Like, everybody's showing their best life. So just cut out the noise, focus, and take it one day at a time. And you will find somebody. Again, it's just a matter of time. And I would say, don't get lost in the loneliness or anything like this. Like, it's just keep going, distract yourself with other things, and eventually what's meant for you will happen. And this actually resonates a lot with the app that I'm working on, and it's specifically designed for parents and people with children that want to thrive or get back into the dating scene. Can't say too much right now, but hopefully the next time we meet, I can kind of have a whole conversation about it.
Yeah, when do you plan to roll that out? I know you can't say too much, but just so you know.
I hope by the end of the year, I hope. But there's a backlog of items that I need to take care of, and I'm the problem. And so I'm the dependency. So I'm just trying to like carve away at it one day at a time. But life's curveballs, life's obstacles, and changes in priorities, and it's tough. And so I'm hoping by the end of the year we can be operational and just go heavy. And I want to do it right, and so I don't want to rush into it. I want to have commercials. I want to have, all sorts of things. I really want to do it big. So
Awesome. So maybe we can reconnect when you are ready to launch that, and then we can talk a little bit about that as well when you have more to share about your app.
yeah, absolutely. I would love to anytime, honestly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for chatting with us today. Really appreciate your insights, your experiences, and your perspectives.
No, honestly, thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and just the conversation and the questions are so thought-provoking, and so it's very much appreciated. And you don't really think about these things on a daily basis, and as you're poking at the questions, I'm like, wow, I didn't really think of it, and so like you're kind of like, oh yeah, like it is all good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today on Parenthood Bytes. We hope you found our episode informative and entertaining. If you're a parent in the tech world or know someone who is, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at chow@parenthoodbytes.co, and we'll be thrilled to add your experiences to our interviews. That's chow, CHIAO, @parenthoodbytes.co. And to our potential sponsors out there, if you're a business or know of one that would like to support and partner with our podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also reach us at chow@parenthoodbytes.co. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Until next time, take care and stay curious.